So we have a large slate. We've got the tables full up there. We're going to use the same format as we have on the prior questions. It's prior forums. It's going to be even more important for candidates to limit their response times to the time that we've provided, and even more important for the audience to focus on what they're saying and not all the noise should be coming from the stage, from the back. Believe it or not, even we have trouble hearing the candidate responses when there's a lot of stuff going on behind us. So with that, we will start with Mr. Lantry and work our way down to Mr. Wilson.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you for having me here. I appreciate what the Chamber has done here. Just an introduction for those of you that don't know much about me. My name is Bill Lantry. I've lived here for over 19 years. I've been married to my wife Jeanette for over 25 years. We have 3 sons, 2 of which attend Miami University and 1 who is a senior at Mason right now. I have a bachelor's degree in organizational leadership. I am a retired police officer. I was a police officer for 30 years, and I retired January of last year. My current position that I began soon after retiring, well, right after retiring actually, I manage the fraud department for the General Electric Credit Union. I've been doing that for about 19 months now. Currently, I serve on the Deerfield Stormwater District Board. I'm the treasurer of that board. I serve on my HOA board as well. I've been on that board for greater than 10 years probably. I live in Simpson Creek Farm South. That's the HOA I'm at. And previously in Deerfield, I have been on the Zoning Appeals Board, and I was also on the Stormwater District Board years back. I had to leave that position as a police officer. I got promoted. In police work, when you get promoted, that means you get to go back to work night shifts. So that's why I had to come off that board. I am endorsed by the sheriff, Larry Sims, and that's about it for me. Thank you for having me.
Hi, my name is Kristen Malhotra, and I'm running for Deerfield Township Trustee. I have lived in Deerfield for, well, it's been 1 year. I lived in Mason prior to that for 3 years, so I've been in the area for quite a while. And I have a degree in chemical engineering from Ohio State, and I also serve on the executive board of the largest young professional volunteer group in Cincinnati. I'm also running primarily to bring a voice to the people of Deerfield. The citizens of Deerfield deserve to have a government that works for and serves them. This includes listening to them and their ideas and plans for the township. As trustee, I will always have an open door for my constituents to come and talk to me. I am running to support the responsible development of our township. Before we continue to build new structures or to support additional retail or office space, we need to have a demonstrated need for these. Our existing retail and office spaces need to be full before we start building new. Before we continue adding apartments and housing developments to our township, our roads and our schools need to be able to support the increase in population. Our roads are overburdened. Traffic backs up at all times of the day and on major roadways. It is nearly impossible to make a left-hand turn out of some of our neighborhoods. People do not want to drive around Deerfield. If our own residents complain about the traffic, how are we going to convince people from outside the township to come here and spend money at our stores and our restaurants? The government of Deerfield needs to make a better effort to work with our schools. The developments that we are proposing and allowing through our zoning practices are overcrowding the schools with students that they simply do not have room for. Partnership with the schools is paramount to a successful future in Deerfield. And of course, I am running to preserve and expand the green spaces that we have in Deerfield. Numerous studies have shown that access to nature leads to a host of health benefits, both mental and physical. People want to live in places where their kids can run and play, where they can walk their dogs, and where they can disconnect from the hustle and bustle of their everyday lives and connect with nature for a while. I believe I am qualified to lead Deerfield into the future and would love your support on Election Day. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Siciliano.
Thank you. That's pretty good. I would first like to start out by saying thank you to the Mason and Deerfield Chamber for allowing us the opportunity to answer questions tonight. I would also like to thank all of you in attendance for taking the chance to participate in your local government by becoming informed. I am a high school social studies teacher. I teach government and American history, and so this opportunity to be in front of you and to participate with you is personal. It's very important to me. I have a Bachelor's of Science in Education from Miami University, as well as a Master's in Education in Administration from Xavier University. As we said before, my name is James Vincent Siciliano IV. I am a husband and a father of 3 children. They are the reason why I do everything, including running for township trustee. I want to provide a safe community, support great schools, provide great parks, and improve the quality of life for my family and for yours. Tonight you will hear answers that at times will be similar, and I'm sure times where we will differ. My hope is that you can have an open mind and an open ear to what we have to say. That is what I promise to you if you would elect me on November 7th, an open mind and an open ear. I want to be a part of the government that has the trust of its residents. I want to provide more transparency and integrity in the office of trustee. I want to open our government up for public involvement. I will push to create community advisory boards so that our residents have a greater say in our local government. I hope to work with you as we keep making Deerfield Township better. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Spear.
Yes, thank you, and thank you to the Chamber for hosting this. Thank you for all the guests that are out there. A little bit of background, Wayne Spear. We've been a residence here since 2004. Actually, my bride of 40 years, Debbie, and I moved back here about 30 some odd years ago from Colorado. My background includes both professional in business as well as entrepreneurship as well as education. My background includes a degree from the University of Missouri, and my master's was here in town with Xavier University. Currently, for the past 10 years, I've been a visiting professor of corporate innovation at Miami University, having retired in about 2004 and driving my wife crazy. She said, get back to work. So that, along with some of my consulting, keeps me pretty busy, as well as my 2 children who both live in the King School District. And I've been blessed to have 5 grandkids, all of which will be going through the King's School. So I'm really thrilled to be here in the building. I've served Deerfield for the past 4 years, on the Zoning Board of Appeals, which was an incredible experience when I volunteered about 5 years ago. When Pete Patterson moved out of the township, the open position was posted, and I submitted my information because I felt it was still my duty to serve the township in another capacity. It's provided me with an incredible understanding not only of the township over the last 5 years, but also things like the ORC, the understanding of zoning, township government, fiscal responsibility, and fiscal instruments that the township uses. That experience, along with 35 years of corporate America, I think makes me have a unique combination that I can bring not only business accountability but fiscal responsibility to the township. Just as my decisions in business were focused on the customer, my decisions as trustee will be focused on our 38,000 residents.
Thank you, Mr. Spear. Mr. Vestal.
Well, good evening, everyone. It's my honor to be here, and I want to thank Sherry for accommodating me at such a late hour. Thank you very much. My name is Lonnie Vestal. I am running for the Township Trustee. We moved here in 2007 from Stockton, California. And when we moved, before we moved, we were worried. We had 2 kids. Levi was 2 and Reagan was 1. We worried about schools. We knew that we weren't going to put our kids in California schools, and we worried about crime. Stockton's a top 10 high crime city. A long story short, when we came here, we just felt like we had won the lottery, and we used the word Mayberry very often to describe Deerfield Township. It's a blessing to live here. I bring a wide, varied background and experience. I did my undergraduate studies in Stockton and my master's work at Western Seminary in Los Gatos, California. I was a supervisor of a college campus in Stockton, California when I moved here because I did teach in California. I taught for a while in Christian schools. As a matter of fact, the last time I was in this building, I was a sub-teacher because I sub-taught in Kings and Little Miami School. I began a business several years ago, first working underneath the owner of Summit Building Company, and then after several years launching out on my own here in Cincinnati. So I have owned and managed my own business for the last several years. So I bring all that experience to the table, and I'm happy to be here tonight and asking for your vote. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mr. Wilson.
Check. Good evening. My name is John Wilson. Many of you know me as Jeep. Some of you know me as Coach. I've been in the community. I've got them all beat. My family moved here in 1957. There was nothing on Montgomery Road, and Mason Montgomery was a two-lane highway that you could walk from Mason to Field Journal and never see a car. I'm a lifelong resident, and I've grown up in a great community. I brought my son to this community, raised him in this community. I'm a graduate of King's. One of the first ones to go through what is now the junior high was the original high school. My son graduated from here a few years ago. He's a member of the community in the workforce here. He works at O'Brien's. Some of you may have seen him, a big, tall, blonde-haired kid named Tim. As I said, I'm King's grad. I have a degree in business and in audio-video production. I've worked in hospitality industry for 30 years. I ran a $500,000 a year nightclub in Nashville, Tennessee for about 5 years. I was away from the community for about 6 years. So I know a little bit about managing money and managing people. I also coach youth sports, so I know how to manage kids. If you can manage kids, you can manage a lot of different things, as some of you parents all know. I was actually in youth sports for 11 years, did football for 7, coached every Brewster there ever was. Those of you who know the Brewster family. And I coached baseball for about 7 years as well. A total of 11 years is where I was in it, and I actually won Manager of the Year for Kings Knothole in 2005 with a rec team. Took them one out away from being a champion. So I have that experience behind me as well. I have an ear, what I think, to the past because I've been here for a long time and I know a lot of the older people. So I want to bring that experience and that calm, rational thinking, my problem solving, relationship building, and my sensitivity to the community. I want to bring that to Deerfield Township Trustee. Thank you.
All right, thank you, everyone. We're going to move to a couple of questions in speed round form, and we will actually start with Mr. Wilson and move this way to Mr. Lantry. Some of you touched on this already, but just to ask everyone on a level playing field, how long have you lived in Deerfield Township?
A total of 52 years.
Mr. Vestal?
Since 2007.
2004.
23 years. I've lived since I was 15, but have lived in this area my entire life.
As I said, I lived in Mason for 3 years, and then I moved to Deerfield about a year and a half ago, but it was literally just across the street. I've been in the area for 4 years.
19 years.
All right, thank you, everyone. The same speed round form. We're going to go right back the other way, starting with Mr. Lantry and ending with Mr. Wilson. How many times have you voted in local elections during your residency?
Every time.
I haven't had the opportunity to vote in a Deerfield election yet.
Well, I'm a government teacher, so I preach to my students that it's their responsibility to vote, and so I always vote in elections. I even voted absentee while living on a military base in Germany in 2000. So, always.
All of them?
I looked at this today. I have missed one. My wife beats me by one election, and that was 2013. Sometimes when you're running a company and your crew works late, you don't have the opportunity. So I have missed one in 2013.
The only ones I've missed are the ones that when I was in Nashville, and that was about 6 years worth. Every year that I've been 18 and been here, I voted for it.
Thank you. So a little bit of an expansion, not a 60-second response, but a 30-second response for everyone, no rebuttals. So as all of you know, the Chamber developed a candidate questionnaire that most of you participated in. Your vision included the 3 things you would like to achieve in office. What is your top priority, and how will you go about achieving it if elected? And we want to put emphasis on the word how. We're going to start in the middle with Mr. Siciliano, and we will end with Ms. Malhotra. So it's going to go this way and come back. We're shaking things up for you all.
Well, I will make the cooperation and open communication with schools my top priority. Through the creation of a school advisory board, I'll create an environment of cooperation that will allow Deerfield Township to be a partner with the schools in creating students who are college and career ready so that they will be able to fill the changing workforce needs in the years to come. We'll work with local businesses on creating internships, and that will allow for further on-the-job training of the workers for the future. If we communicate openly and work together, everyone wins: students, schools, businesses, and the township.
Thank you. Mr. Spear, 30 seconds.
My top priority is running like a business. My 35-year career in large companies Are we okay?
I'll give you a
2
couple
focuses, sure. Delivering an excellent product to our stakeholders, and of course in here it's the residents and businesses. As well as doing that, we provide the exceptional fire services, the infrastructure, attracting the workforce. The other one is fiscal responsibility. In addition to running companies of $400 million, I started and bootstrapped my own company, and I think that's one of the most important aspects in running a government.
Mr. Vestal, 30 seconds.
I think a Deerfield Township community identity is important. If our growth projections hold true, which are published in our comprehensive plan, Deerfield Township will be the size of Charleston by 2035, the capital of West Virginia. And so I believe we're at that adolescent stage of growth where we need to foster a sense of community. Attract new businesses to Deerfield. Even if you don't favor development, surely you favor businesses coming back to our existing brick and mortar retail stores. And that's all the time we have.
Thank you. Mr. Wilson, 30 seconds.
There's several things that I think are important, but one of the things that I really would like to work on is transparency in the local government. I think we work under an Oz-like facade at this point. Everything is behind the curtain, and I'd like to get it out in front of the curtain. I want to have an ear to the people. I encourage the people to come to our meetings. It's your government. You run us. We don't run you. And that's what I'd like to do.
All right, Mr. Lantry, 30 seconds.
Of my 3 priorities, I stated number 1 would be to stay on course for the debt-free 2020 plan. By doing that, I'm a fiscal conservative. I believe that's the responsibility to the government. And by doing that also, we're going to be able to funnel more funds to our schools, our emergency services, and to our parks.
Thank you. Ms. Malhotra?
My top priority will be to improve the infrastructure. It's no secret that our roads need help. It takes a long time to navigate our roadways, and that's really hurting our retail spaces, our dining, and the opportunity that for people to live here. I've heard many residents, many of my neighbors say that they don't want to live here anymore because the traffic is just so difficult to navigate. So that would be my first priority.
All right, thank you. So for this question, we're going to mix it up again. We're going to start with Mr. Vestal. We're going to work our way to my left, your right. Mr. Wilson, you're going to get the last word on this question. So, and we're going there, guys. We're going to the Kingswood Golf Course and the importance for growth and job development opportunities. Do you support the development of the former Kingswood Golf Course? Why or why not? And 60 seconds.
I do, and I think the whole reason we're debating this is because we own it. And so whether you favor development or not, I do give credit to the trustees for acting swiftly and responsibly in purchasing the land 10 years ago, which kept it out of the hands of Mason. They would have developed it in a way that would not have benefited our township, and we would have had zero say-so in its development. So credit where credit is due. If you are against big dirty factories, if you favor parks over factories, I guarantee you, if Mason owned it, they would have developed something that looks like Innovation Way. So I do favor its development. 2/3 would be developed, 1/3 would stay green. I think we need to pay off the debt. We spent $10 million, over $10 million on the land, and we need to come out from under that debt.
Thank you, Mr. Vestal. We'll go to Mr. Spear.
Yes, I do favor. The strategic plan that both in 2008 and 2013 in the comprehensive plan identified the idea that we would transform that golf course into something incredible. We've undertaken a 5-phase strategic plan to look at the possibility. It is just that. We don't have the definitive answer as to what it will be. It could be public space that represents a performing arts center, farmers market, the Royal Theater. We do know that it will give us the ability to balance our housing stock, more affordable housing to draw in skilled labor. We also know that it will allow us to provide a type of housing where even Gen Zs and millennials will want to come, as well as the aging population in our community. Bike trails, running trails, this could be the center of Deerfield. It could be the center of the Mason-Deerfield area. As we look at the opportunity, economic opportunity, we see that it could deliver, as Mr. Romano said, it could deliver quite a bit in terms of the budget, to the schools, to the parks, and to the fire. This makes us look forward to being debt-free.
Thank you, Mr. Spear. Mr. Siciliano. I've probably butchered your name about 5 times already.
Siciliano is pretty good.
There you go.
I do not support the current plan for development of Kingswood Park. Out of 110 acres of green space, at the meeting that we had looking at the boards, I estimate that the community will have access to around 4 to 5 acres. That is after you take away 2 ponds, an amphitheater, and a farmer's market. The overdevelopment of this park will create stormwater problems for those communities around this property and throughout Landon. We do not need a downtown Deerfield, especially when Deerfield Town Center and the new district at Deerfield will provide the exact same options as what is proposed at the former Kingswood Park. We need green space for our families and to raise the quality of life for our Deerfield Township residents. I would love to see the northern part of the park kept as green space and possibly develop the southern part of the park with a splash pad, playgrounds, playscape area, permanent farmers market, maybe a coffee shop, a bike shop rental, even an ice cream place. Maybe we can have another whip-de-doo come into town, so that families can enjoy the park and then have a treat when they're done. The cross-country teams can have access to run, and we can bring back cyclocross racing. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Ms. Malhotra.
Yes, I would love to see the Kingswood property preserved as a park. I first got involved with the local government here through a desire to maintain and preserve it as a park that I used frequently and that I feel is a rare gem. That being said, as Ms. Lutz said earlier tonight, it really should be the choice of the people. It is our tax money that purchased that park, and it is our tax money that has maintained that park over these past 10 years. So therefore, it should be up to the people whose money has been used to purchase and maintain this park what be done with it. There is a large portion of our population that wants to keep it as a park, and that is not a small portion of our population. That is why I think it is just awful that the initiative to put it on the ballot was shot down. There were other ways of doing that. The best way of knowing what the true pulse of the people here in Deerfield is to put it on the ballot where they all have access to go and vote and to have a say in what they want with their publicly owned land. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Malhotra. Mr. Lantry.
When it comes to parks, I was a park ranger for Hamilton County for 7 years, and I have a great appreciation for parks. I've done a lot in my life to protect parks, protect parklands. The problem I see here is that we were put in a position where we had to buy the property, and it was done pretty much at the stroke of midnight. That decision was made, and when the purchase price of the property was worked out, it wasn't typical property that would be purchased for a park, which you usually are not going to pay nearly $12 million for a parkland. I think it's to be responsible and fiscally responsible. I'm in agreement that part of it be developed, and for the 30 acres that are currently proposed to be kept as green as possible. I want to make sure that we create something there that is very unique and very inviting for a diverse part of our population, for something there for everybody, in other words. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lantry. Mr. Wilson.
Kingswood Park is a real hot button in the community right now. I know that property well. Not only did my close friend Dave Lake's father buy it and develop it as a park or as a golf course, I played there, and I actually worked for a township and mowed it a whole summer, or well, most of a summer. So I'm pretty familiar with the property. Development-wise, I think at this point in time, I think we're probably backed into a corner of some sort of development. What that development is exactly, I'm not quite sure. I know that many of the people I talk to do not want to see the type of development that has been proposed. They do not believe in the plan. They do not believe in calling a median a park between passing lanes. They don't believe in the traffic that's going to come out of there. So, yes, I think it needs to be developed. I want to explore how.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. We're going to open it up to the candidates in any particular order. If anyone wants to do a 30-second rebuttal to what any of the other candidates have done, I guess the first one to start talking, go, and then you can raise your hands from there. Anybody? Bueller?
Okay.
All right.
I agree with Kristen. I think that Kingswood Park should be left up to the people. We should open it up. When we had a meeting to discuss the vision for the green space that was available, instead of having an opportunity to ask questions and get answers, we were given Post-it notes and said, here, just put comments on, and magically somehow that's going to influence what happens. It should be up to the people to decide. We should ask them, and then we should listen to them, to what they have to say for the development or the lack of development for that park.
Anyone else care to speak?
I just want to say, when the comprehensive plan was put together, which includes plans for the park, and certainly in the revised version, it was done in cooperation with a good many of the township citizens. So the citizens were listened to, they had input, and well, I have the list right here. And so I do believe that people were listened to, and I think that the plan from the beginning was to develop it. The whole reason we're talking about this is because I believe the crash, the fact that we had to sit on it, which, by the way, I think was the right decision, to sit and wait for a good development plan to come forward.
Does anyone else have anything to add?
Yeah, I
Ms.
do.
Malhotra. Oh, I saw her first, sorry.
Sorry. Just because a small group of citizens helped put together a comprehensive plan doesn't mean that it was a representative sample. Doesn't mean that every voice in the township was heard. And when that plan was put together, it was a different economic climate than it is today. Nowadays, people are not spending as much money at retail. People are eating dinners at home. People want to have time in nature, to spend time in nature, and that is what people want nowadays. The time has changed.
Mr. Wilson?
Yeah, very quickly. I've read that comprehensive plan, too, from cover to cover, and I've talked to a lot of people and posted a lot of stuff about that comprehensive plan, and the general public doesn't really know about this comprehensive plan or what it says inside there. Now, having said that, it is a plan. It's nothing in stone. It's an idea. It's a forecast, and people need to understand that. So that's my comment on the 35-year plan.